Yeah.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Should be okay. Yes.
My name is Shelby Gansey. I'm a graduate student in the broadcasting program at Syracuse University, and we're covering this for my class. And I was wondering if we could have a few minutes after the ceremony to speak with us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Nancy Lorraine can stay, but Peg Mandy representing her.
I have that. Yeah. Oh. What about 4 minutes, I think. That's about 20. Yeah. Yeah, we gotta get on. We're gonna wait till. What was the split there? everybody wants to say hello to you.
Yes. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? What's going on? I don't want to get in the middle of this.
You were just 2 tables away from me, but I was not feeling well that day. I was going to remind you.
I wish you had.
Well,
Things like that.
John Rosemary has the end.
How are you, my friend? Good. You looking well? As usual. How's my book coming?
The last book, I put it in my computer. I got the disc.
Great.
So I'll
Make it a lot easier.
And I got a whole bunch of stuff to
I see him all the way down there, yeah.
Maybe I should bring the tripod.
Get into that.
have a seat, Rich. He's right there. Here's the gentleman.
Gordon?
Could we please have seats? So we have some seats available up in front. We're getting a little crowded in here, but we still have some seats up in front here if you want to move up. Okay, we're going to begin now. On behalf of the employees of the Syracuse VA Medical Center and on behalf of the veterans of Central New York, I welcome you to a very special Veterans Day observance, the unveiling of the Women's Veterans Mural unveiling. Tomorrow, of course, is Veterans Day, but with the formal dedication of this mural and its permanent display within the Medical Center, it will serve as a constant reminder of the sacrifices made in defense of our country by active duty women of all branches of the service. Color Guard, please post your colors. Please remain standing during the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance and the playing of our national anthem. At this time, I'll call upon Father Evans for the invocation.
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Unto you, O Lord, we humbly bow, raising our voices and our thoughts on behalf of the veteran of every time and place who is committed to the ideal that America is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Challenged today are we, Lord, to honor, to praise, and to extol the female veteran who served proudly in the military of the United States of America. Women as soldiers, sailors, Marines, women as pilots, skippers, and astronauts, women as negotiators, counselors, and lawyers, women as social workers, clergy, and nurses, women as friend, companion, and lovers, poet, visionary, and politicians. A mere sampling of the multiplicity of the talents women have offered to our country, imaged and captured upon a canvas, soon to be unveiled this day, a lasting memorial to the women who, side by side with their male counterpart, internalized the core belief that America is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bless, Lord, the female veteran who paid the ultimate price by laying down her life in battle, and their sisters who have since joined them in the heavenly realm. Bless, Lord, the female veteran who has returned to civilian life, and especially those who have entered the golden age of retirement. And bless, Lord, the servicewomen in remote corners of the world, prepared to continue the mission of their sisters we honor this day. And may the love of God be with each member of this assembly, always and always. We pray through the Lord of love and peace, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now our national anthem. Please be seated. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Medical Center Director, Mr. Philip Thomas.
I'd like to welcome all of you here as part of our ceremony celebrating Veterans Day. Very appropriate. We talked about this many months ago and coordinated the unveiling of this mural to correspond with our Veterans Day recognition and celebration. Women as patriots and members of the armed forces is not something that happened just recently. We go back to the days of the Revolutionary War. Women were there. We go back to the Civil War, and spouses dressed in military uniforms to be by their husband's side during the war. We talk about the evolution of what has happened in America, and it is time that women receive the rightful recognition that they've earned through their efforts, their sacrifice, and their leadership. We today celebrate that leadership. We today celebrate that patriotism. It is not by coincidence that the color guard were women, including a veteran from the Persian Gulf. It is not by coincidence that the committee took subjects from the Syracuse and Central New York area that represented not only veterans of today and the past, but veterans who are women who will be veterans in the future. Patriotism and leadership is not gender specific. It's something that as individuals we bring to the table. We come to our country's defense and the defense of freedom throughout the world. America lives to celebrate its founding principles, and no country in the world can lead that effort except America. That is part of our burden. That is part of the gifts that we enjoy as citizens of this great country. And to the women in the audience, to our future veterans who are here to help us celebrate, we welcome you, and this is your day. Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming our representative of the 25th Congressional District, the Honorable James Walsh.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you all on this very auspicious occasion. I'd like to welcome General Vlad back to Syracuse. I met her, 8 or 9 years ago, I believe it was, when she was working on providing a memorial to all the women who served our country, and it was a very ambitious goal, and she succeeded marvelously. If you get a chance to visit it in Washington, in Virginia, you should do that. At Arlington. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome back my friend John McGuire, who is here in the audience with us and had a great deal to do with bringing this to the fore. Also Harry Schultz and Deb Joyner and Ruth Scherer, who led the fight to provide a permanent display of the recognition that belongs to all of the women who served our nation, who were willing to put their lives on the line to protect our freedoms. What a marvelous gift, what a marvelous contribution. And to the credit of Mr. Thomas and Mr. Kazel and the members of the leadership of the VAMC here in Syracuse, to make Syracuse the very first VAMC in America to provide a work of art on permanent display to recognize the women of our community. So it's great to be here. Congratulations to all, and thank you very much for providing this to my community.
We are certainly honored to have a number of individuals join us today, and I just want to recognize some of these people. And please bear with me because we have some last-minute substitutions and so forth. We have State Senator Nancy Lorraine Hoffman's representative, Peg Bandy. She is the president of Women's Marine Association. Is Peg here? Yes. And State Assemblywoman Joan Christensen. And State Assemblyman Hal Brown. And representing Mayor Roy Bernardi, we have Joseph Lemondello, Corporation Counsel. Joseph? And from the 174th Fighter Wing, we have Colonel Robert Noth. And somebody I remember very well sitting in the back is the former commander to 174th, Curtis Irwin, General Curtis Irwin. We also have with us Colonel David Wilkinson, Senior Coordinator of Guard Help of the New York Army National Guard. And from the 174th, we also have Colonel Bob Homer, right next door. We also have Lieutenant Colonel Ray Eldridge, the Professor of Military Science at Syracuse University. Is that person here? No? Okay. And of course, we have our Gold Star mothers, and I'll ask them to stand. Where are they? In the back? Yes. Okay. Yeah. And we have at least 1 or 2 American ex-POWs here. Are they in the audience? Any ex-POWs here? Okay. All right. Well, I think we got through that pretty well, and at this time we're going to have a little bit of a musical interlude. They do such a wonderful job, and I'm very pleased that they're here with us today. Again, this is the brass quintet of the 10th Mountain Division Band.
Attempting to find something appropriate for this moment in the ceremony, we searched through our piles of music to find that we really didn't have anything that would directly pay tribute to women. However, what we did choose was W.C. Handy's tune, the St. Louis Blues. And if you're familiar with that, this pays tribute to all of those who have challenged barriers. You see, not only was the St. Louis Blues the first blues piece that was published, but it was also published by a black composer. So in tribute to those who have challenged and broken through barriers, and to those who will still do so, ladies and gentlemen, W.C. Handy's The St. Louis Blues.
I knew I was going to forget somebody, but this is not somebody you want to forget. Somebody that's always very supportive of the VA, our County Executive, Nick Pirro. Nick? The Women's Mural Committee has worked very diligently, very hard over a number of months, and they're sitting up here in the front row, and I'm going to ask Deb Joyner to join us up here and kind of talk a little bit about the committee and their activity. So at this time, please welcome Deb Joyner.
Excuse me, I'm a little thirsty. Before we begin, there were a few people that were forgotten to be mentioned. Colonel Werner, Professor of Aerospace Studies of Air Force, ROTC, easy for me to say, ROTC of Syracuse University. Lieutenant Colonel Thornhill, an advisor of Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and General Michael Ryan. Thank you. Before I introduce our most distinguished keynote speaker, I would like to give you a little background. I promise, General, I won't take long. General Wilma L. Vaught was very instrumental in the Women in Military Service for America, which is about honoring and paying tribute to all of the women who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. Her tireless efforts to the Women's Memorial speaks for itself. For those of us who had the opportunity to go down to the dedication, few words, overwhelming and awesome. She is one of the most decorated military women in our nation's history and an inspiration to me. It is a real honor to present to you General Wilma L. Vaught.
What a pleasure it is to be back in Syracuse again. You know, I used to come here to this area quite frequently. When I was in the Air Force, I came to Griffiths Air Force Base, the Rome Air Development Center, and then after I became involved with the Women in Military Service Memorial Project, Jean Penner was a force to be reckoned with here in Syracuse at that time, and was a leader in helping us. And to this day, I miss her, and I only regret that she did not live to see the memorial built. But somewhere there, I'm sure she found it. It seems hard to believe that it was just a little over a year ago when the women from here in Syracuse joined us in Washington, D.C. for a very historic event, the dedication of the Women in Military Service Memorial. How many of you were there? Great. And did I shake any of your hands that day? Gee, I'm amazed. And today I'm very honored to be with you for dedicating a mural that is honoring our military women. As you said, it hasn't always been this way. It's changed through the years. And I wanted to begin my remarks because there's been so much of New York involved with the memorial project that I would be remiss, I think, if I didn't touch on a bit of that. First of all, by thanking the legislators here in New York for a very generous donation to the memorial, and I thank you for that, and that effort was led by your women legislators. I don't want to diminish you at all, Jim, but it was the women legislators who got this through, and I thank them. With a lot of help from some other people. But it was an Army nurse who's here today who inspired her daughter to write a couple of poems that were read by Connie Stevens during the dedication. And she brought me a copy of one of them, and it's a very moving poem, and I thought that at least I could share that much of the dedication events with you by reading that. I don't promise to read it as well as Connie Stevens did, because she's a pro at this, but would you stand up, please? The mother of the author of this poem. The other, I'm going to read the one called The Hand That Rocked the Cradle, and the other one that was written was about Dedication Day and played a very prominent role in our things about dedication. The hand that rocked the cradle, they said, would rule the world. The rosebud of a mother's care that blooms in love unfurled. Her gentle loving wisdom would shape the things we do. The hand that led a leader would guide his choices too. The hand that rocked the cradle flies helicopters now. The weapons that she carries cause terrorists to bow. Her leadership and courage will shape what fighters do. And mother will return, my child, when the world is safe for you. She's not one of the boys, you see. She's what she's always been. She's a woman who believes in peace, and for that creed, she'll win. The hand that rocked the cradle came home to you today. The band is playing proudly. Her squadron's home to stay. She did her job and did it well. She fought the better fight. And she's here to rock the cradle when you go to sleep tonight. Mothers always went to war. It's really nothing new. They feared and bled and fought before, and many died there too. There's a cradle in the corner, mourning in a silent way. There was another mother who won't return today. She rocks another cradle to heaven's victory rhyme. For like soldiers have for ages, she died before her time. Sherry Wilkins wrote those words. As I said, it hasn't always been this way that we honored our women. And I will go back to World War I because that's when women began to come to prominence in the military services. And one of the World War I veterans wrote to me when she registered for the memorial, and she was from Washington, D.C., and she said, as a young college student in Washington, D.C., I sneaked out of the dormitory on the night of April 6, 1917, and was in the audience of a downtown theater when the manager stopped the show to announce that war had been declared. Half the orchestra broke into the Star-Spangled Banner while the other half played Dixie. This just shows you that things have been confused in Washington for a long time. And we women have recognized it. She went on to say, I followed some women in uniform down the street to find out what they were and how I could become one. I immediately enlisted before discussing my plans with any family members who had a fit when they found out. I served at the New London submarine base as secretary to the commandant. I was sometimes called upon to use my language skills to interrogate German prisoners brought in. In the community's World War I victory parade, 3 other women, veterans, and I were denied permission to march in that parade. So we staged our own parade on the sidewalk as the official parade went up Main Street. They were not going to be denied. And one of the speakers at our groundbreaking ceremony in 1995 was from New York, a little place called Olive Bridge, New York. And she was a wonderful, wonderful person. And she told something very similar. She went to Washington, D.C. and saw some women in uniform and said, "Oh, that's for me." And she said, as soon as I returned to New York, I went straight to the Navy recruiting office and signed up. My entry was slightly delayed when I became ill. So it was not until November 7th, 1918, that I proudly took the oath of enlistment to serve for the duration plus 6 months. 4 days later came the armistice. I was assigned to the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where I worked in the ordnance depot. We worked from 8 to 5, 6 days a week. I was promoted to yeoman first class shortly after I went in. My pay was $30 a month, and because I lived at home, I was paid an additional $30 subsistence pay. I don't remember exactly what we did, but we typed and made 6 copies of everything. You know, we still make 6 copies of everything, only now we do it on the computer. June 20th, 1919, I was discharged and then spent 4 years in the reserves. I would have liked very much to have remained in the Navy, but that was not possible for women at that time. It hasn't always been the way it is today. And as I think about that time, and World War II, when we had some 400,000 women who served our country, who for the most part went in to free a man to fight, who went in for patriotic reasons, and when they got out, when they went to get a loan, a VA loan to buy a house, were told, "Oh, you've got to bring your husband." Or if they went to the VA for medical treatment, they were told, "Oh, we're not equipped to take care of women." And if they went to the veteran organizations, for the most part, the VFW didn't take women, and probably the commander of the American Legion post said, "Well, you're eligible to join, but you'd really be much more comfortable in the auxiliary." And I can see heads shaking in agreement here. And we started immediately after the war discharging lots of men and lots of women, but the intent was at the beginning that all of the women would be discharged except for the nurses, as they always had been in every conflict before that. But this time things changed, and in 1948 there was a law passed. The Women's Armed Services Integration Act was passed, and it gave women a permanent place in the armed forces. And had that not happened, you know, I, for example, would never have had a career in the military, in all likelihood. But it was changed, and women could stay, and they did. And then I think about the women who served in Vietnam. I was one of those. I was not a nurse, and some 82% of those who did serve were nurses. And they were 21 or 22 or 23 years of age. And it was a very traumatic experience for them to be placed in charge of a triage unit and be responsible for discriminating between those they thought might live and sending them over here, and these other soldiers who probably wouldn't live and who would go over here and not receive care as quickly. And it was a terrible experience for these young women who had seen very few people die before that time. And many of them came home and suffered from post-traumatic stress syndrome. And because the nurses in World War II had kept all of their experiences bottled up inside them, and they didn't complain, people couldn't understand what was happening with our nurses of Vietnam when they suffered. And then when Grenada came, a little peace action down on that little island, things had changed sufficiently that when we deployed our forces there, the women went too. And they landed down there, and that skirmish was still going on, and there was a colonel or a general there who said, women aren't supposed to be in combat, you go back. So they got back on the airplane and they flew back to Fort McPherson, Georgia, where a general said, what are you doing back here? You're supposed to be down there. And they explained, and the next day they flew back again. And interestingly, that general's name was Norman Schwarzkopf. And why did the women go back? Because they were a part of that unit. They had a job to do there. They had a mission to perform, and there wasn't anybody else that was supposed to perform that mission except them. And they went back. And then in Panama, we had new things happen as far as women were concerned. We had women flying helicopters, carrying supplies right into the combat area because the combat area was all around where they were. And at least 2 received the Air Medal for being pilots. Something new. And something else happened because one of the Army captains there, who was in charge of a military police company, troops were called to clean out an area of hostility, and before it ended, she had gone in there too and was the first woman, military woman, to participate in a combat type incident. And that was immediately picked up by the press, and unfortunately she received criticism for doing her job, and that ended up affecting her psychologically, and she finally ended up leaving the Army when all she had done was support her troops and follow them where they went. In the 1980s, women entered the mainstream. And interestingly, as women entered the mainstream in the military services, because we had a high enough percentage that we began to be a critical mass, and because of other external events, the all-volunteer force concept, the Equal Rights Amendment, we began to look at some of the ridiculous rules that had pertained to women's service, and we began to make changes. And because of Vietnam, we had taken more women in, and so we truly were moving into many skill areas and doing things women had never done before. And all of a sudden, the population of women veterans was increasing because of the 400,000 who had served in World War II, plus those who had served in the intervening years, and then the 265,000 or so who served during Vietnam. And all of a sudden, there was recognition within the VA that the needs of women had to be addressed. And fortunately, we had a director of the VA who said, we've got to take care of the women too. And so we have seen great changes in the VA medical centers since that time. But I would have to say to you that I still find frustrated women veterans who are somewhat irritated when they go up and someone said, and you're a dependent, when they are in fact the veteran. And then Desert Storm came. And for the first time, women deployed at the very beginning of that conflict, and they were in it all the way. Some 42,000 served. And for the first time in the history of our country, when we referred to those serving our nation, we referred to them as the men and women serving in Desert Storm. History had truly been made. As a result of the dedication, I have received so many letters, poems, comments from people who were there. And I want to close now with one written by a staff sergeant in the North Carolina Air National Guard, because it says so much about women's service to the nation. I am woman, one of many who lives to long for one's dreams. I fight to be strong for what I believe in. I have fought many battles and won some great wars, never defeated because of compassion. I have sworn to hold in God's trust the great glory of his truth, to uphold what is true through many a sacrifice, and at times life's unruly scorn, to protect one's nation, the red, white, and blue, through my pledge and allegiance. I walk proud to be an American. I am your mother. I bear the children of this great nation. I am your sister, one who shares your childhood. I am your daughter, the footprints of my soul I cannot outgrow in your memory. I am your wife, your one true companion, till death do us part. I am your friend, one you can count on time and time again. On this day, remember me, for I am woman. In 1989, I received a letter from a World War II nurse who had served in the China-Burma, India theater, and that letter became a mandate to me in what we should try to do with the memorial. And it is the mandate for the memorial. And she wrote, "Let the generations know that the women in uniform also guaranteed their freedom, that our resolve was just as great as the brave men who stood among us. And with victory, our hearts were just as full and beat just as fast, that the tears fell just as hard for those we left behind." Today, at this VA here in Syracuse, you too are letting the generations know that the women in uniform also guaranteed their freedom as you dedicate this mural. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It is so exciting to see so many of my close friends and colleagues here today to honor the memory of my fellow women veterans. Today, we unveil a mural which expresses the pride I had when I volunteered to serve during the Vietnam era. The pride of not only serving my country, but serving with so many other women who sacrificed for their country. Today is an attempt to bring those women together and recognize them as true partners in defense of our wonderful country. The mural we display today is a symbol of that pride, and hopefully rectify that lack of recognition that is long overdue. Here with us today are 4 women that will carry on that pride into the future for all of us to see. Several years ago, I began discussing the mural idea with other women veterans. The responses I received were overwhelming and positive. I talked with Ruth Shire, a very special fellow veteran who I knew from serving on the Women's Health Clinic Advisory Board Committee together. We decided to form a committee with Harry Schultz and John McGuire, who are both Vietnam veterans, whom had experienced firsthand the contributions of their female partners under extreme conditions and enthusiastically contributed their time to our cause. The committee asked the hospital administration for permission to hang a mural here, in the hospital where it could be readily seen by all those that passed through its doors. We were given the green light to proceed. We then set forth trying to find someone who could portray this symbol of women in military. Within a few weeks, we found Nancy Muncie Rhodes, an artist who had done murals in the War Memorial. The committee met with her, and needless to say, we were quite impressed and immediately requested her services. Obviously, we got very lucky, and she agreed to work with us. We met with her several times discussing the ideas on how the committee wanted to portray real peoples that were actual women veterans. First, Nancy said she needed pictures of women veterans. The word went out via the media, and the response was enormous. Then Nancy asks, by the way, could you get their uniforms too? Well, all I can say, it was much easier to get the pictures. The pictures fit, the uniforms didn't. At the same time, we requested donations from veteran service organizations throughout the 18 counties of Central New York, who generously responded, and thanks to you today, you're here seeing the first women's mural in any of the 172 VA hospitals across the United States. It is with great pleasure now that I introduce to you our esteemed artist, Nancy Muncie Rhodes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege being associated with this project. First, I want to thank the committee members for their support and confidence. They had the unshakable faith that I could put into a glance what it would take 1,000 words to say. Would committee members Ruth Shire and Deb Joyner and John McGuire and Harry Schultz stand so you can be recognized? I would like to personally thank all the women who spent countless hours with me, sharing their lives, telling me what it was like to be a woman in the military, and what their hopes are for the future. Many people shared photographs of themselves, their friends, and their family members. These images were a constant source of inspiration to me and the painting. I particularly want to thank the models who gave up their time to pose for me, and in a moment I'll be introducing them to you. This mural is about recognition. Recognition which, in my opinion, is long overdue. It's about service, honor, and courage. It's not only about passing the traditions from one generation to the next, it's about building on these traditions with pride and dedication. When you get a closer look at the mural, you'll notice I have an image of an eagle that's sometimes transparent. It touches all the branches of the military. The American flag is also interwoven with the figures. That's why we named this painting Women Under One Flag. Our strength comes not from being independent of each other, rather it comes from being interdependent. Although each branch of the military is important, when standing together, they become a force. Above all, Women Under One Flag is about women of substance making a difference. The courage, honor, and sacrifices these women have made and continue to make needs to be acknowledged and honored. I truly hope my painting expresses with dignity and honor the invaluable contributions made by our women in the military. I hope everyone will view this mural with pride for years to come. Thank you. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing the people who posed for me, so when you see the mural, you can connect the faces. So after I call all your names, would you please stand so you can be recognized? Cadet and Veteran Mary Spiel, Cadet Zavieta Fontaine, Cadet Joanna Laubach, and Officer Pia Smith. Stand and maybe even face the audience. It's great seeing them again. It's been a year in the making for this mural, so we haven't seen each other in close to a year. Okay, and now I would like General Vaught to do the honors of unveiling the mural. And the committee members and I proudly present to you Women Under One Flag, Service, Honor, Courage, Passing on the Tradition. Would you like to?
I think we all three should do it.
Okay, we'll all three do it. I'm not sure how we do it. Now, where do we pull? Would you like to do it? You come here. Do we go here?
Oh, you mean it goes this way. You ready?
Here, we'll
yes,
plan.
ma'am. Can you get your hand up here? Yes, I can. Yes. Oh, we're going to do this together. Okay? Absolutely. Oh, I'm 7'2". I think there's something we didn't do here. I think, Nancy, you have some family members here, and your mother, your proud mother, is I met earlier. Where are you? There's a whole row of your family there, I know. Where is she? Did she stand up? Did she stand up? There she is. And all those other family members here to support. You stand up too.
Well, again, on behalf of the veterans of Central New York and the VA employees, I want to congratulate, of course, the efforts of the committee and all the hard work, and Nancy Muncie Rhodes, and a year of effort of painting. It's a beautiful mural. And I'd also like to recognize at this time, too, our color guard. What a nice job they did for us today. And also, I'd like to recognize once more our special guests, our honored guests, making this a very special day here at the VA. And also the 10th Mountain Division Band. What a great job they did. We're going to invite everybody to come up and take a closer look at the mural. Of course, pardon me? No touch, okay. And of course, it'll be, as of Thursday, it will be on permanent display here at the Medical Center, and it'll be a lasting tribute to on the first floor, yes.
42nd and Broadway.
Okay, right at the heart of the traffic area, but it'll be a prominent position there. And of course, it'll be a lasting tribute to our women veterans. And we're also going to have some refreshments. They're going to be in the back. And I'd also want to remind you that tomorrow is Veterans Day, and that at 10:15 at the War Memorial, there will be the annual ceremony, and I encourage all of you to attend that. And at about approximately an hour, hour and 15 minutes later, about 11:30 or so, of course, there'll be the parade. So again, I want to thank all of you for being here and being a part of this very special day. Thank you.
There is an apparent relationship there, and people don't forget it. Anybody have any other comment on this particular illustration? Well, and everybody knows that VHA did address this in a policy document the middle of last year. And the policy document says that, hey, these relationships are matters if they don't involve a violation of the nepotism law, if they don't involve helping a member of the same household, because a member of the same household is within the outer perimeter of the appearance rule. So if they don't involve nepotism, they don't involve helping a member of the same household, and they don't involve conduct unbecoming, which is another administrative regulation, then the measure that management, that we as managers, Dr. Kaiser and we ourselves for our own purposes, have to bring judgment to bear. So judgment is where you're left. Any other comment? And we have an even more delightful illustrative example here.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Catron.
Yes?
Hi, I'm Rhonda Overby with the News Post. Can we talk for a moment?
What's this about? I'm on my way to a meeting.
You are Phil Catron, aren't you? The medical center director for the VA facilities in West London and East Canton?
Yes. Who told you that?
Some staffers on a congressional oversight committee have raised some concerns about the use of government vehicles at your facilities, and they said you'd be the person to talk with.
Well, I'm not aware of this.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've gotten some pretty skeptical quotes from committee staff on this story.
Oh? Well, no one has said anything to me about any improprieties. In fact, we're very careful about this sort of thing. We have a responsibility to Congress and to the tax-paying public, you know.
Exactly my point. It's come to my attention that there have been several occasions of possible improper use of the official car that you drive.
Well, that's untrue. Where did you get your story?
Freedom of information. I checked the vehicle records. They corroborate the committee's contention. You drove a government vehicle to your facility in East Canton on the same dates which you performed with that barbershop quartet you performed with in East Canton. What do you call yourselves? The Swingers, isn't it?
I can see you've been very busy, but you've got your facts screwed up.
Oh? How's that?
Sorry, Miss Overby, but your little criminal theory here won't hold water. Now, the medical center in East Canton was consolidated with the larger West London facility under my supervision. I moved to West London to be close to the office. But once I was there, I found I had to go to East Canton fairly often, so I wouldn't have to rely too heavily on the chief operating officer there. Now, is that too nefarious for you?
Is this for the record, or are we going to continue dancing around the facts here? Well then, care to comment on the East Canton Tennis Club going on record on these improprieties?
About what?
They saw a vehicle with government plates parked in your reserved spot at the tennis club. Your comment?
No comment. If you'll excuse me, I'm late for a meeting.
So you had to predict there would be one about this. And what's the analysis? This is easy. And the effort, I think, is to just dramatize the fact that it has been an issue and will not continue to be an issue. Any other comment? These are matters of statute. It's probably well known as well that one particular statute says that if you willfully misuse an official vehicle, there is a 30-day suspension involved with it as a matter of statute. It is property. In fact, I was interested in getting ready for this session. I did notice that the GSA regulations that deal with the use of official cars have the predictable provision that says agencies will take appropriate action where official cars are used for other than official purposes. But in that same regulation, there's also language that suggests that agencies consider making a referral to the Department of Justice under the conversion law that I mentioned earlier. These cars are property. Conceivably, they could be the subject of a person being prosecuted. Any other comments? Okay, we'll go to our next illustrative example. And this will be, you could have predicted this one as well.
I just got back from the VA meeting in New York. Flew the red eye, landed an hour ago, just got in. But I wanted to call and tell you the good news.
What good news, Rudy?
The flight was long enough to put us over the top. Enough frequent flyer miles for that trip to Jamaica.
Oh, wonderful.
Will that be the perfect wedding gift for Janie and Claude, or what?
Oh, that's great. They'll be ecstatic. Oh, and don't forget, Rudy, tonight's the reception at the country club for all the local bigwigs to meet Bill Gates.
Old Microsofty himself, huh? You told me not to buy Apple stock. Why didn't I listen?
You rarely do. Can we use your car?
The government car? Oh, yeah, I'll pick it up and swing home and get you.
Home to work transportation. There's a statute on that too, except for the secretary. Unless you're the secretary, home to work transportation using an official vehicle is never official for purposes of using the car. Other questions?
Just a clarification on that one, because I think as we get out into home care in the community, I mean, we are making decisions where home care individuals should have the government car, because otherwise it's an hour drive to come in and get it and then go back out to the community.
Different rule, and I'm very far from being an expert on when it's appropriate for us to provide transportation to patients.
No, this isn't for patients. These are actually our professionals who go out to the homes.
To the homes?
They go to the homes, and they use a government car to go to the homes.
I'm sorry.
But instead of coming an hour into where the facility is, that the car may be at their home, and they go from home directly to the patients.
I characterize the statute too broadly. It's your own home. The statute provides that the employee's own home is operating the vehicle, can never use the vehicle properly from going from his own home to work. Does that answer your curiosity?
No, it doesn't, because this is a home care nurse.
Yes.
Who works 50 miles from the VA medical center.
Yes, there are cases. There are cases.
And
if your
doesn't
work,
drive in to pick the car up and then go back out the 50 miles.
If your work involves you in a circuit like that, there's authority in the GSA regulations to provide for that. It's very limited and it's stiff, but it is there. And thank you for pointing that out. Other question? What about the frequent flyer part of this thing? Pretty obvious there. Let me ask you this, was that a creative illustration or not? No. It didn't have to be real creative to come up with that one, did it? No. I've heard of that one before. It was several years ago, but it actually did happen in the VA. Other comments before we go to our next illustration?
This is an issue then of these being considered government resources that are inappropriate for personal use?
That's absolutely right, and I think that VHA policy is to that effect and re-emphasize that. It is absolutely correct, and the recent case that we all heard about, and which partly explains why that's in here, it was a matter of conversion. And the application of the criminal conversion statute to frequent flyer miles simply demonstrates that, yes, frequent flyer miles are government property. The practicalities that, for example, mean that the airlines refuse to transfer them, that doesn't change the fact that they remain government property, and our obligation is, there's a standard of conduct on this too, requires that we pay attention to and not waste government property. And I agree it's a frustrating situation where you pile up all these miles and they can't always be used. In fact, it looks to me like they can rarely actually be applied to other official purposes. Your question, sir?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. My understanding is you can't use them to upgrade either for government trips.
There's language that authorizes a person to use frequent flyer miles to upgrade, not to first class, but the next level above coach. But that language, it's in a 1993 memo, VA memo. It says that you can only use the frequent flyer miles to upgrade, not the first class again, but you can only do that when that's the only way you can use the miles. If the miles can be used for no other purpose, then you can use them to upgrade. But I don't think there are very many airlines that give you frequent flyer miles only for the purpose of upgrading. That's the test there. Other questions?
Yeah,
Mr. Donohue?
Jim, there's several airlines that if you fly very frequently with them, you get the miles and that goes into the bank. But as a courtesy, they send you upgrade certificates. It doesn't reduce your frequent flyer miles. It's just an upgrade that you can apply within 24 hours of your flight.
I don't think there's a case that indicates the light's green on that. If you call me later, I'll be glad to do that. And I also happen to know that there is pending a policy letter on travel policy, and I'll make sure that gets considered as Bonnie Britton and her staff move toward bringing out this pending policy letter. Other questions?
Yes, one on the other side of the coin. There is no problem with not ever taking them when you're flying on a government, is there?
Not ever taking?
Well, I mean, the easy way for many of us to do it is just never.
Right. The answer is there's no legal problem with refusing to take them or declining to accept or declining to set up an account. However, it's true that the VA policy chapter on travel management does say that if you are a frequent official traveler, they expect you to go ahead and establish a frequent flyer account with the airline and use a separate address so you can keep the two accounts separate if you happen to have a personal account. So the agency policy is that you would establish an account and accrue the miles and then account for them at the end of the trip. Other comments? Let's move to our very next one.
Rumor has it that Rudy and Charlotte are an item. You work with him. Any truth to that?
Rudy? You're not serious. Well, he's a straight shooter, so honest and above board. I'm not even sure he's capable of having an affair, let alone carrying on with that woman.
Well, I don't know. That job, he hardly sees his family. Stuff happens.
I know, Chuck, but I've never seen him take advantage of his position in the slightest. He's very particular about not even abusing his government car privileges.